Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about something that is of great interest to me, always has been, and that is about the subject of aliens. And I want to give you my take on it in terms of using astrology to see historically what has unveiled, but most of all, what is about to be unveiled, considering all of the sightings that have been going on all over the world lately. Yes, there has been a lot. But let me go back and historically point out what the astrology is bringing forth and how we know the timing of when something very specific is going to be revealed. So before I start, I always want to remind everyone that to check out, go to my website, galacticcenter.org, check out my spiritual jewelry, malas, and things that remind us of our spiritual path. And remember always, if you would like to learn Vedic astrology, go to my university website, which is University of Vedic Astrology.com. Now, what I'm about to tell you about comes from my latest book called Pluto, Control, Power, Surrender, and Rebirth. And the reason why Pluto is important concerning this event and what has been happening for such a long time on planet Earth is that Pluto rules major transformations and atomic energy. And here is what's been going on. I mean, the universe is endless. There are worlds, there are solar systems just like ours throughout the universe. We are not alone. And what this is about is the fact that when we came into using atomic energy, the atom bomb, that is when the aliens came flooding to Earth. They had to figure out what on earth we were doing because it actually destroys not only ourselves and planet Earth, but it sends out vibrations throughout the universe. It is very destructive. And I believe those from other planets felt this vibration and had to come extinguish the possibility of not only us destroying ourselves, but having destruction in the universe. So here it is that in my book on Pluto, because when Pluto was discovered in the 1930s, that was when atomic energy started to be discovered. And when we started to use it, especially testing it and using it during World War II, during the bombing of Hiroshima, Pluto was so relevant at that time. I could actually make this video over an hour with all the charts that I put up in my Pluto book concerning the United States chart relative to the bombing of Hiroshima and relative to the two presidents that were most involved with the aliens, which was President Truman and President Eisenhower. It is a known fact that they had deep, profound interest in aliens. And there has been talk that they have been in communication with them. A lot of talk, a lot of secrets. And I'm going to go over some of the past things. But here's what happened. After the bombing of Hiroshima, the sightings of aliens were off the charts. And if you'll look, I mean, it's amazing. Even even right after the bombing of Hiroshima, we had the Roswell Crash. Now, the Roswell Crash is very significant because this began the whole coming together of the United States with the talks with the aliens. Let me give you a little background here. It was right after the Roswell Crash that President Truman put together a team. One was Vannevar Bush, who was the head of a top secret program called the Majestic 12. I think it's very interesting that they use the number 12 because this is the number that is all about completion. Think about it. There's 12 houses. There are 12 signs. There are 12 apostles. There are 12 is this mystic completion of the number patterns of 3, 6, 9, and 12. And as Tesla said, if you understand the workings of the numbers of 3, 6, and 9, you understand the meanings and the workings of the universe. So these numbers are really important. 12 is the variable of completion. So Majestic 12, Vannevar Bush, he was the one that was one of the leading project on the project of the Manhattan Projects, because the Manhattan Projects, I don't know if you realize, but Einstein was part of that, and that's where they developed the bombs. And this particular Bush was put in charge of this. And he was actually, from all of this, he was brilliant. He was the creator of Memex, which was a machine that was like the first that really began computers and all that has evolved to today. And what they have said, that in these sit-down top secret meetings with the president and the people that were involved in all of the makings of the Manhattan Project and then the Majestic 12, that they made agreements that the aliens could have abductions, do the animal mutilations, and this was all that they would exchange technology. And they believed that many of our advances in aviation, such as the stealth bomber, came from information that were gathered from the aliens. Now, you may think all of this is not true, but there is many documents. And if you go back, these documents, everything is blurted out, blanked out. Why? They couldn't let the public know about this. This was so extreme and radical. But I want you to know that this is real and something is about to happen very soon that will bring this. This is the big awakening. This is it. So many things have been put in our way to try to avert our attention from what is going on. It's insane. Maybe even the whole virus thing, but everything is trying to get our attention away. And some think that the thing about the aliens is out there to avert our attention from the corruption that's going on globally in the world. But regardless, this is here. And I'm about to show you some unbelievable, uncanny things that are happening astrologically. And I want to tell you something. You may think this is crazy, but I believe totally in omens. Things happen for a reason. There's signs if you pay attention. When I was writing the chapter in this book on the aliens, which it goes into a lot more depth than I'm going to go into today, because in the book, I compare the charts of Harry Truman's chart to the bombing of Hiroshima, to Truman's chart, who came after as president, after Eisenhower came after Truman. Both were involved. And these were at the times of the bombing, the Roswell Crash. This was right after. And the president's charts line up incredibly with the charts that I'm about to show you with, well, for one, I'm not going to go into the bombing of Hiroshima and all the events that happen every time we have the nodes of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, go into Gemini and in Sagittarius. This is always the time of a turning point, every 18 and a half years. But the presidents and the outer planets, which I did my 3-book series on while we had the lockdown, because I knew this was relevant. The outer planets reflect the mass consciousness of the people. And when they change and when they join together, major transformations happen in this world. They create the masses, the changes, the transformations. This is Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They are originally not used in Vedic astrology. Why? Because they rule our subconscious mind. And they rule the masses, and therefore they predict the trends and the changes to generations, to the world, but not necessarily in a personal sense, individually. Of course, our subconscious mind affects so much our psychology, what we think, what we feel, how we're connected to others in this world. And that's the effect the outer planets have on us. But I want to show you 2 very important charts that I think are going to prove my point. But let me get back to my omen. When I was writing that chapter on the aliens, a helicopter hovered over my house almost the entire time I wrote that chapter. Now, whether or not this was some intelligence that knew, maybe not, it was an omen saying that what I have to offer in this information is reality. So let me show you the charts that I think are going to prove my point. I'm going to show you the chart of the time, the day of the Roswell crash in New Mexico. And I'm also going to compare it to the United States chart. And you're going to see some unbelievable connections. Let me scoot over here. And now I am about to put up the Roswell crash, which it occurred July 7th, 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. And remember, New Mexico is where they do most of the testing for these bombs and things of that nature. So looking at that chart, next I want to put up the chart that I use all the time for the United States. And remember, those of you that wonder where I get this data from, this is the chart that was rectified by Vedic astrologer James Kelleher. So putting up the United States chart, which is July 4th, 1776, in Philadelphia, the signing of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. I want you to first of all notice where the moon is in both of these charts, because this is going to be where I'm going to really talk about what's to come, because the moon in both of these charts sits right at 7 to 9 degrees of Aquarius. Yes, and it also sits, I might add, in the nakshatra called Shatabishak. That nakshatra deals with the sky watcher. I always tell people when they have that nakshatra strong in their chart, I always say, you have been fascinated with the heavens, with astrology, with astronomy, with anything that's out there in space, including aliens. Everyone agrees, yes, that's the sky watcher. It is also considered a nakshatra of healers because it is called the 100 healers as well. So something is about to give, because guess where Jupiter is stationing right now? 8 degrees of Aquarius. Now, I always talk about a stationing planet as being 10 times to 100 times. I don't know, just remember it's so magnified when it stands still. It's not the same as just a planet that's in movement. It's a planet that is changing directions from either retrograde to direct or direct to retrograde. And between the months of June through July, Jupiter is stationing at around 8 degrees, 8 degrees of Aquarius. It's activating a point in both of these charts, and the United States is so connected to this Roswell crash. Look, now, if I could point out some other interesting things in this chart, look where the sun is in both charts. The sun is almost exactly conjunct within a degree from each chart. Now you might wonder, why is the sun not the same exact degree? I mean, with it being from July 4th to July 7th, 3 days apart, why is the sun so close? You'd think it would be 3 or 4 degrees away instead of just 1 degree, because we have the sun at 20, I believe it's 21 degrees, yes, in the Roswell Crash chart, and we have it 22 degrees in the United States chart. It's because of precession. This happened 70 years ago, and therefore, in the process of precession, the stars move backwards. Everything moves backwards 1 degree every 72 years. So that's why we have this difference of, with it being a little over 1 degree instead of 3 degrees, you see. So, but the suns are the same. The moon is the same. These are the lights in the chart. This is very significant. And if I might add, comparing the charts, there is more. There is more to this connection with the United States dealing with aliens, because this Roswell crash started it all. If you will take a look at where transiting Uranus was on the day of the Roswell crash, it was at 0 degrees of Gemini. Notice where Mars is in the United States chart. 0 degrees of Gemini. What does that tell you? Mars deals with machinery, technology in the sense of building things, function. And Mars is potent. Mars is action, things happen. But Uranus is also the planet that does deal with inventions, computers, technology. Uranus sitting on Mars. This is where the technology in the United States took off, because we were given the necessary information we needed to grow, to advance. And not only that, Mars, Uranus sometimes deals with accidents, crashes. This was the time of a crash. This was transiting Uranus, sitting right on the United States Mars. And I find it very interesting, if you might see this, as Mars rules the 5th house in the USA chart, which is building, creating, and it also rules the 12th house of things beyond this world, outer space. Pretty amazing. Now, if that hasn't convinced you, I have more. Notice where Mercury is in both charts. It is almost the same degree. Mercury sits at 3 degrees in the United States chart, but 2 degrees in the Roswell Crash chart, within a degree. And this Mercury in the United States chart sits in the 8th house, the house of secrets, the house of scandals, and the house of metaphysics, things beyond this world we cannot understand. So Mercury is the thinking mind. Mercury is intelligence. Mercury is the process. of invention and Mercury on Mercury in the United States chart. You see, this Roswell crash is actually a transit crash for the day that this crash happened, and aligning it to the United States chart, this is what it activated in the United States. The connection, the communication, and the secrecy of the 8th house dealing with the aliens. Furthermore, there's even more. Notice on the day of the Roswell crash where Saturn is. At 15 degrees of Cancer. Where is Rahu in the United States chart? 15 degrees of Cancer. This was an amazing event. Saturn is heavy. Saturn is serious. This was a wake up. Oh my God, there's aliens. And where does it all fall? In the 8th house of scandals and secrecy. They could not let this out. Furthermore, look where Pluto is. Now, this isn't exact, but remember Pluto deals with atomic energy, and every time we play around with this stuff, guess what happens? The aliens come. The aliens get involved. And I want you to know something else. Research this if you don't believe me. There are so many instances where they are testing at the nuclear sites. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes a spaceship. And they don't know who or what it is, and it extinguishes the test. All of a sudden, it is extinguished, and they cannot test it. This has actually been happening all over the world. It's not just at the test sites in the United States, but this is an occurrence that is extremely common. And this is proof that they are trying to help us extinguish our desire to destroy each other. Help, this is a good thing. So, but it's so relevant that it's happening every day. Now, going back to where Uranus is, the planet that rules atomic energy, notice that it is an exact opposition in these charts. So Pluto is in Capricorn in the USA chart in 1776, but in the Roswell chart, it is opposite natal Pluto. And guess what is happening now? We have a Pluto return. So it takes approximately about 244 years for Pluto to go all the way through the entire zodiac and return back to where it was in the beginning. So we have a Pluto return since the beginning of the United States of America, about 244 years ago. But during the Roswell crash, it was where Pluto was opposed Pluto. And now we're having Pluto come back full cycle to where it was for the initiation of the United States of America. Now, it's not exact by degree, but by sign. During the time of Roswell, Pluto was opposed Pluto in the United States chart, and now we have Pluto back returned to where Pluto was when the Constitution was signed. This is amazing. This is transformational, incredibly transformational. And before Pluto does, actually, well, in the next few years, it is going to be exactly returned at 6 degrees of Capricorn. Right now, as we speak, it's about 2 degrees of Capricorn. Pluto moves very slow. Give it a couple of years, we got a Pluto return, and we're going to know the truth. Many people, though, don't want to believe it because it scares them. It really does scare them. So many people, even with the proof, I think will be in denial. They already are. They have seen crafts that dive into the ocean off the coast of California. And the alien sites are under the water. This has been documented in South America, and now it's happening off the coast of California. Many have seen this. Google it if you don't believe me. It's out there. And even many of the pretty conservative news stations are even talking about this. And many have said, it's here, it's happening. But people are in denial. Probably because this is going to really, really scare a lot of people, especially those that have depended on their religious beliefs. This is going to throw a curveball for many religions, but that's beside the point. Getting on with the transits of this chart, there's even more. I noticed that from the Roswell crash to now, Neptune has returned, and Neptune is about secrets. Neptune is about everything to do with things we don't know, and particularly what? Denial. Absolutely denial. So when you look, Neptune in the United States chart was very early Virgo, but at the time of the Roswell crash, Neptune was in the middle of Virgo, so it had returned, and Neptune is activated as well. Another thing, we were looking at some really tight aspects, such as the moon on the moon, the sun on the sun, Rahu on Saturn, Saturn on Rahu, and Mercury on Mercury. Pluto opposed Pluto, Neptune on Neptune, and there's even more. When we look at the Roswell crash, we have to notice that looking at the Mars-Rahu conjunction in Taurus, we just had Mars conjoin Rahu in the last couple of months. And all of these alien information has becoming more and more so in the public. But notice in the USA chart where Uranus is, it sits right where the Mars, Rahu, and Taurus are. And this is astounding. This is what's progressing our technology. All of a sudden, our technological advances went from, they advanced astronomically since the advent of when the aliens have been coming in droves to help prevent us with destroying our world. Now, this was pretty much what I wanted to show you. So what I am believing is transiting Jupiter, coming up and hitting the moon, stationing there in the United States chart, in the third house of the United States chart. Jupiter stationing on the moon means something is being communicated about what? Space, time, Aquarius, humanity, in the third house of information. And because the moon is there at 9 degrees, it may not be as relevant as coming up next January when Jupiter's going to go retrograde, which means it's going to bring things back away from all the information that's out there right now through July, could come out big time now. But in January, mid-January, that is when Jupiter will go forward again over this degree, which will bring it to manifestation, what this is all about. So there's one more chart that I want to add to this mix that's going to tell a big secret of how this is all going to unfold. And that chart is a chart of President Biden's chart. Look at Biden's chart, and remember what I'm referring to is the moon in the United States chart. The moon in that crash chart right there at 7 to 9 degrees of Aquarius. Look what Biden has right there, smack dab in Aquarius. 7, 8 degrees of Aquarius. Biden has his K2. Now, K2 is otherworldliness. K2 is things beyond this world. And the fact that his nodal axis sits there indicating this major event from both these charts of the USA. And it's funny that Biden's chart would have his K2 on the United States moon. It is in his presidency that the aliens' truth is revealed, and it will cause the world to change, transform, mark my words, dramatically. It's here, it's now. You wait and see. This is now. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information on me, if you would like to, please sign up for my free newsletter where you will get all of my information. Go to galacticcenter.org. And if you would like to study Vedic astrology with me, go to my university website, which is universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.